then from there you flew straight home?
Flew straight to Fort Lewis, Washington, so right back into the military, you know, because on the flight over it's like, oh, touch of civilian life, and then you land on a military base, you're flown, or you're bused back to the military barracks that you trained in before, and you're like, oh gosh. But at that particular point, once you get to your redeployment station, then I think it was maybe a week of just a lot of paperwork, medical checks, screenings, make sure everything's good, and then I was flown to Riverside, California, and that's where the base was from, and that's where this unit was from. So, and then the guys that lived up in Sacramento, which is there was about 70 of us, they provided a flight back to Sacramento after they landed from Riverside. My wife, she drove all the way down there, so I was able to go home with her, and that was really cool too.
So you retired after you did your 20 years of service with the National Guard?
So yeah, I came back, and I think I drove with the National Guard another year or so, and then I just after 20 years, they say, hey, you've got 20 years, and you're eligible for retirement. I could have stayed if I wanted to. At that particular point, I said 20 years is pretty good. So yeah, I have since retired. So I'm on the retired reserve list, which is not, because I could have retired that day and be done with the military completely, but then I would also earn the military retirement for that day. And so retired reserve, I don't earn any pension until I'm 60. So I think it was another 20 years past, a little over 20 years before I would get that pension. So now I get all the pay raises that anyone else would get over the next. But I'm also on the reserve list, so something I'm looking at Korea lately, going, oh my gosh, that's kind of crazy over there. So,
did most of the people you knew in the National Guard, did they retire too after 20 years?
Most do. A lot do a stint of 6 years and they're done. They've had enough. Or like my brother was in the Guard also, and I think he did his first 6 years, and then he just couldn't do it anymore because he's a contractor, and it was hard. My job's much easier to have a set weekend off, and I could just do what I need to do to come back. A lot of people left the Guard for whatever reason when they got back. And some are still in. Some have redeployed already once, and they've done another year overseas, and they've come back. And a lot actually use the Guard as their primary employment. They're underemployed. They don't have really civilian jobs, so this is it. So they volunteer for deployments, many different in a row.
Did you ever consider volunteering for another deployment, or were you set on retiring?
At that particular point, I was set because when I left, I had one daughter going into 3rd grade, and one was just started kindergarten, and it was hard. It was hard on them not to have Dad around. They didn't really understand why, especially the younger one, and that took a toll. And if I had done 15 years and I needed 5 more years to retire, I probably would have stayed, because once you invest so much time, you don't want to just throw it away.
Yeah.
So, but it just, everything aligned for me at that particular point, and I felt that I served my duty, and felt okay with that transition.
So how have you readjusted to civilian life?
It was good to come back here, very supportive staff. At first I was I was having a hard time with students that were what I thought was petty questions, petty demands, or, and I actually sought counseling through the school district. 4 or 5 different meetings. I met with a counselor, and she determined that I was, it's probably just post-traumatic stress disorder, and it wasn't because I was shot or whatever. It's just because separation away from what you did. You saw a lot, and I went over there and I saw a lot of suffering of kids that don't have all that we have here that we're blessed with. And so when students came up and they were asking me questions about, I lost 2 points on this quiz, why is that? And they were all adamant about it. That was difficult to stomach, But then I realized, and the counselor, helped me realize that that's just where they're at, and it's a different position. So don't pass judgment on those that don't know or haven't been exposed to it, and just actually think about it in a different way that students didn't have to see it all. So that's good too. So the adjustment initially was a little bit difficult that first year or so. My wife has told me that I did change over that year. I generally don't have the patience I used to. And I think it's just kind of just wore on you, and I think that I still kind of have to regroup sometimes when I know I'm losing my patience, and just realize that I just need to kind of slow it down and put things in perspective.
So you do feel like your experience in Iraq changed who you are as a person when you came back?
Yeah, it did. And it wasn't, sometimes I think it changed me for the better. Sometimes I think it's changed me for the worse. Not horrible, but has changed my personality slightly. So, I don't know, it's a weird thing, just being away for so long and going on missions, and I don't even know how I would react to these combat arms guys. They're constantly with danger in their face the whole time, and I don't even know how they survive in the civilian world anymore. So mine was pretty benign compared to what they had